Senator Kaine.
Mr. Chair, and thanks for holding this hearing. It's really important. This hearing, for me, sort of crystallizes why I've never been comfortable with the label capitalist or capitalism to describe what our system should be, because I don't think capital should be at the top of the pyramid. Capital is really important, but talent, labor, creativity, innovation is really important. I'll just call it humanity. And I think capital should serve humanity rather than humanity serve capital. So capitalism, to say that's the top value, I don't really think is accurate. And I think this testimony today and your own experiences is really showing kind of a different model that puts humanity at the top of the pyramid and capital serves humanity rather than vice versa. We've got about 250 ESOPs that are really active in Virginia with more than 500,000 participants. I'll just tell you two stories. Wiley Wilson, 125 years next year. It's an architecture firm, Alexandria, Richmond, and Lynchburg. They've done a lot of federal contracting work, including right here at the Capitol Complex in the War College. Back in 2000, the majority owner was thinking about selling and considered a lot of options. And one of the prime contending options was a large foreign firm. But in the end, they decided to go the ESOP route. Now, there's nothing wrong with foreign direct investment. I love it. We got a lot of it in Virginia. But would that owner have been as committed to maintaining a strong Virginia presence? Would they have been as committed to growing their employees' wealth? Maybe, but probably in all likelihood not as much as the ESOP model. Here's another one. Mid-South is a building supply company, helps a lot of home builders in Virginia with siding, windows, cabinets, other supplies. They became 100% ESOP in 1985. Again, they were looking at a lot of exit options, the founding owner back then. And one of the employees went to the owner and said, hey, let's explore and go ESOP. They took a 20-year loan, the employees, to buy the company. They paid it back in 12 years. And since they've converted to ESOP, they've distributed another $42 million to employees from the ESOP plan. They've paid back the initial debt 6 times over in what they have contributed both to pay back the debt and to employees. Right now, they have more than 20 employees at the company that have more than $1 million balance in ownership in the company. And the average of these 500,000 Virginians who participate in ESOPs is they have a balance in excess of $100,000 in ownership. I have applaud my colleague, Senator Marshall, trying to deal with this valuation question. When the ESOP model was created by the DOL 50 years ago, they were charged by Congress with developing a regulation on valuation. And guess what? 50 years later, they haven't. They've started it a couple of times and then pulled it back as recently as a couple of years ago. And the valuation question is really important. We have a lot of experts in the room, but we have some who like the concept aren't experts. You have an owner. That owner is entitled to fair market value for this business. So you could put it out for sale to a whole lot of people and get offers. And so the owner shouldn't be forced to sell it at a big discount to employees. So the owner should get adequate consideration, much as the owner would if the owner was exploring other exit options. But because the purchase involves employees taking on a lot of debt, you also don't want the owner to charge really more than the company is worth, with individuals who are the employees then taking on more debt than they should. And so you're trying to hit this sweet spot of not requiring the owner to sell at a discount, but also not putting too much debt on the backs of the employees who have to pay it back. So it's really important to have valuation standards. The bill that Senator Marshall and I have introduced would basically take a whole lot of existing IRS law about how you value shares in closely held corporations and set up guidelines for how to do a valuation for an owner to sell to the employees. We would not forestall the ability of the DOL to do additional guidance should they choose to, but we would use well-accepted IRS principles for valuing companies. And what we would do is give a seller a safe harbor. If you follow the provisions in our legislation, well-accepted IRS provisions for valuing companies, then somebody can't come back against you years later and say, you charged us too much and you put too much debt on the shoulders of employees, and then people try to undo a transaction. Mr. Dupuy and Mr. Rourke, you said you've known folks that have decided not to go the ESOP route because of valuation questions. And it's the uncertainty of having somebody come back against you later and claim that the valuation that you did that was inaccurate, that we're trying to solve with this bill that we're putting in. And again, we're using well-established IRS principles for valuation, but also allowing the DOL to do future tightening up or additional regulations should they need it. So I hope my colleagues might support it. But thank you all for sharing your stories, because I think these are really, really powerful stories, and then they show that at the top of the pyramid in our economy, it should be humanity, and capital should serve humanity rather than vice versa. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.